Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm so excited because we have with us a friend and a special guest who's joining us for the very first time to share with us on a topic, women in leadership. Thank you for joining us, Eva. We are excited to be hosting you today.
Thank you, Beatrice. I'm very excited to be here on your channel. My name is Eva Kimani. I consider myself a scientist turned business leader. I have worked for multinational organizations that cut across Africa. I am a mother, and in this International Women's Day for 2021, I choose to challenge myself to support women to become leaders in our society. Because of that, I am working with women and supporting women understand and gain clarity in their leadership journey.
Yes.
For that woman who is stuck, who does not know how to transition from middle level management or whatever leadership position you are in into the next level of leadership.
Wow, clarity in women. Why women, Eva?
This is a journey I have walked. I've been in this space, and I always used to wonder why I was getting bypassed in a lot of promotions. And so I have taken time to master what are these things that are acting as barriers to women becoming leaders. And as we go along, you get to understand that leadership is an attitude, and if you position or you see yourself as that leader, you certainly will become one. The reason why I am passionate about working with women is because I see a lot of women getting frustrated. They keep complaining, they've lost confidence, yet it is just one little thing that needs to be unlocked. Just because you're feeling stuck, work and get something changed so that you can see your journey changing and you becoming a leader that you will aspire to be.
Wow, we are privileged to have Eva help us with getting unstuck. When you talk of women in corporate leadership, are you only talking of the private entities or governments? How exactly is the picture that we know of women in leadership? Paint a picture to us.
There's a discrepancy between the numbers that we see globally and even locally here in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at the global space, we only have 22 female leaders, heads of government or state, right? And we are proud that we have one more in Tanzania just right next door. And when you look at even the Fortune 500 companies, only 7.4% are female leaders or female CEOs. So that already shows that we need to do more, right? When you come back closer home, if you look at the number of women who are doctors, 1 out of 3 is a woman. 1 out of 10 pilots is a woman. So that's like a 10. When you look at the judiciary, we only have 2 ladies out of the 7 judges who are women, right? When you look at the county governments, we only have 2 governors who are ladies. The rest are men. So that already speaks to the gap that women are. There are fewer and fewer in leadership positions, right? And something needs to be done, because if we do not have more women in senior leadership positions who are making decisions, then our priorities will not be represented. Our voice as women will not be heard. Getting into senior positions is only, say, in government or in the private sector. We have very many avenues in which women can be leaders, including, think of even a school where we have a committee or a board of directors where we have a lot of men who are best positioned for those roles. So why can women not take up such positions? Right?
And
you're always thinking that it's for somebody else. And truly, when we visualize a leader, we always sort of have a man in mind.
You're right.
So it's about time that women position and saw themselves as those leaders and took up any of these positions, whether it's in government, in the private sector, or in whatever setting you are around you.
What is it that women have not done or have done that separates them from the men and denies them the opportunity to be leaders in government or in leaders in leadership?
Yes, and I like that you mentioned that. The one thing that we don't do well compared to our male counterparts is that, number one, do not talk about our achievements. We do not toot our horn. We do not speak and tell our story. We do not voice what we know our strengths. We always assume that this is something for other people. We are not owning it and talking about it. So somebody else will come, take over, run with your achievements, and you will not get that position, right?
Wow. In short, what you're telling us is tell your story.
Absolutely.
I mean, pick what it is that you're good in. Toot your horn, she said it.
Yes.
And some of us would come out and say, that is pride. Are you talking too much? As a woman?
No. Oh, yes, you may hear a lot of people telling you some of these things, but then it's up to you to walk your journey. And, these are some of the things that people will get to notice.
What you're telling us is, don't just wait. As a woman, you're telling us we just don't sit and expect people to recognize our efforts, but actually speak about it.
And it's not just about speaking about it. You can do it in your own little ways. For example, having achieved your targets or so, for anyone to know what you're doing, you can do it on email and copy, your manager or a senior leader into that email trail. So then they can also get to see what your contribution looks like. So this way, anybody who sits in a leadership position, they'll be like, yes, this is the person who is behind the work. And you can also be creative in terms of how you engage your senior leaders to your story and to know your story, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be that all the time you keep talking about it. Be creative in how you go about it.
That's profound, because most of us would rather let your boss shine, and at the end of the day, all the credit goes somewhere else. It's okay when your boss shines, but what you're telling us today here is go out of the way and toot your own horn and tell your story, so that also other people can get to understand what is it that you're doing behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what are the other things that men are doing it differently than women that are propelling them to the top?
There's also the thing about, women being perfectionists. And this, as much as it comes from, our home setup, we like things being done in a certain way, and this we take to work, right? And you want to be super attentive to detail to the extent that you lose the bigger picture. So as a woman, you tend to focus more on the work that you're doing and not necessarily raise your head to understand what the vision of the company looks like, what's the strategy, and aligning yourself to that strategy. So if you just sit behind your desk, do all the work, and expect that someone will notice what you're doing, you will not be seen as a visionary. And when anybody is looking for a senior leader, they want someone who is putting what has been done into context of the bigger picture and the vision of the company. So if you leave it at what you're doing at your desk, then you miss out on the senior leadership position.
In short, you're telling us work with a strategy.
Absolutely.
Wow.
This is like a game, and you have to understand the rules of the game. If you don't know how to play the game, then you will obviously lose out, and nobody will come to understand what you do. It's up to you to be out there, be present, and be strategic.
Wow. As you mentioned about strategy, I actually thought about things to do with also office politics. Is there a way they come into play when it comes to women in leadership?
That is a very, very big point that you stated right there, because a lot of women do not like taking part in company politics. There's no way you're going to avoid politics in any organization. The earlier you know how to engage in company politics, the better. You have to know what's going on in any organization, because if you're not placing yourself in a position where you you're aligning yourself to the direction the company is going,
Yeah.
and knowing who matters, what's being done at that level, then obviously you will get any opportunity that comes up will
Yeah.
pass you, because you will always be seen as somebody who conforms, and you're not being seen.
Wow.
You're not aligning yourself to either the people who are involved in making decisions,
Yeah.
and you're not involved in the discussions that are going on.
Yeah.
And again, you need to be creative around that.
Yeah.
If you can get somebody who will, walk you through that journey, or to understand how to play this, have these discussions,
Yes.
it is very important in your journey as you transition into senior leadership.
My women friends, we've got to be aligned. Clearly, that's what Eva is telling us. We have to be aligned.
And I would also want to speak to this is to please, and you brought it earlier. A lot of times, as I mentioned, women conform. We are always doing our job to please somebody else. They ask you to do something, you don't bring your voice to it.
Yes.
Or add a voice to it. If something is not making sense, you speak, or you just do it, and regardless of whether you feel it's not being done the right way, in that process you almost imagine that if you please, you will get a rise, but it doesn't always work. So sometimes your voice has to be heard,
Yeah.
and that's the only way you'll be perceived as somebody who can lead
Yes.
a company at a senior level.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're always conforming to what is being said, and you're not bringing new ideas, you're not being unconventional in the way you do your things, if you're not taking risks, if you're just being compliant and following the processes and not bringing fresh and new ideas to the organization, then obviously you will not be seen as a change maker, and so such opportunities will also
We want women to achieve different results, and Eva is telling us we have to disrupt. We have to not just conform, not just be compliant for the sake of it, but disrupt so that we can see the change that we have desired over time. And there's something else, Eva, you mentioned about our relationships.
Yes, and relationships also come from, we do go get invited to networking events, and a lot of times women attend these events, and you may interact with a very senior executive, and even get to an extent where you exchange business cards. The only challenge is that women are good at building these relationships, but then what do you do with that relationship?
Yeah.
Is it going to help you? What men do best is that they leverage on this relation. They don't not only build them, but they leverage on this relationship.
Yes.
And so you will find a man asking if they help you, then they will expect that you help them back.
Oh, yes,
right?
I've seen that, yes.
For women, we like helping too much that we forget our own journey and our own career.
Wow.
So you're not asking for that favor back, or even when a position comes up, we do not ask to be considered for these positions. Yet for our male counterparts, they're so good at it that they will always pay favors back, and they will ask and they will get. And what you do not ask, nobody will
Get
give you.
it. Wow, you guys
So-
got to ask. You've got to ask.
Yes, so if you feel you're actually not even qualified, because you find that a man will apply for a position when they're only 65% qualified for that role.
You're right.
For women, we expect, even if you have 95%, you're looking at the 5% that you do not have.
Oh, yes.
So, and yet the 95 is good enough.
It's
It's
more than
excellent.
good. It's more than good. Yes.
So it's about time we challenged ourselves,
Yes.
take on new assignments, consider taking up a senior position, because it's an attitude.
It's an
People, it's an
attitude.
attitude.
Wow.
If you want to do it, then go for it. Strategize around that and work around it. See what you can do. The people you need to walk you that journey, and involve anybody who will be supportive to see you elevate to that level.
Are you guys listening to Eva? I mean, it's so profound what she's talking about. You've said so many things in that one sentence. Leadership is an attitude. That's what she's just mentioned. She's talked about us guys going ahead to ask so that we're able to achieve that which we want. You've mentioned about the 65%. Someone with 65% as a man will apply for a position, believing in themselves. Well, a woman, even with a 95%, you still feel like you're not good enough. And what came to mind was a clip you shared some time back about how women we are taught to be perfect when men are taught to be courageous. And I think that expounds that point where we are saying, women, you don't have to wait until you're perfect. Be courageous enough to take up and ask for that which you want, even when it is not 100%. And boils down again to the point you've just said again, the perfection trap.
Yes.
We've got to get out of that. It's amazing. You guys, how do you feel? Leave your comments down here. Yeah.
Yes, we would be glad to hear what your thoughts here
Yes.
are. So please share so that we can see which areas women are struggling in,
Yes.
and how we can support you.
There's a lady out there thinking, yeah, I would like to transition to the next level of management. I would like to see a change also in my world in terms of leadership. What next for them?
It's very important that if this is a journey that you so wish on yourself, you seek the necessary help. We have support that we can offer you as a coach, and you can also seek to work with mentors who will walk you through that journey, and also get a sponsor or somebody who can walk with you that journey in real life and tell you as things as is. Identify that one person, reach out to them and tell them you admire their journey. Can they support you, walk that journey in terms of, unlocking what senior leadership
And
looks
did you
like.
just say sponsor?
Yes.
No. What do you mean by someone getting a sponsor?
So a sponsor is your advocate. So build on one who can always make referrals in the event, a senior position role comes up.
Yeah.
And we all need these kind of people who know you very well, they know your achievements and are building you up. Remember, in most of these senior leadership positions, you will not see the adverts on the newspapers.
Right.
It is more of a referral system. So, and you need some of these people to be your voice when you're not present, right? And it's very important that you work on having one or two, especially depending on the industry that you want to be in.
Yes.
And these are going to be your voice when you're not present, and will also make very good referrals in the event that such a position comes up.
People who can speak for us, people who can stand for us, who can hold us on their backs so that we can rise. Yeah. What other things could we do to move to the next level?
So I would also recommend some considerations around EQ, emotional intelligence, because the moment we invest in understanding how our emotions are, it helps you win. And the moment and this is part of the strategic thought process around how you get to the next level. And the moment you understand your opponent, in this case maybe our male counterparts, how they are thinking, and you also understand yourself, your strengths, your limitations, and how you can use that to your advantage, then in that case, you'll be able to understand the entire environment and figure out how to position yourself in the best way. And speaking about, why women are also perceived as, emotional and all that, that's a skill that everyone needs to adopt, because you need to figure out what you show and how you respond. Also speaks to, are you capable of taking up a specific leadership role? Because if you're going to be very emotive and your emotions are all over the place, sometimes people will perceive you as unstable, right? So that's one of the things that women should consider investing in.
Emotional intelligence, guys. As Eva is speaking, I've just thought about how many times, how many experiences I've had to go through, and you looked back and thought, wow, okay, for sure I was maybe a bit emotional. And this emotional intelligence, I mean, how do we get to harness emotional intelligence in this situation?
Yes, so there are a lot of resources that any one person can get to read about it.
Yeah.
And there are also coaches who support women in managing emotional intelligence. So it's one of the skills that is very, very critical as you rise through the ranks.
Yeah.
Because it's a strategic tool.
Wow.
And you need to make good use of it
for you to elevate.
Yeah.
You've talked about coaches. Who is a coach? Football coaches. Who is a coach in this situation?
A coach is actually somebody who will seek to understand, where your strengths are and work with you to sort of understand your strengths, your limitations, based on the discussions that you have, and create or rather walk with you in that journey in terms of understanding how you can convert your strengths or limitations into something that is more meaningful for you in your career journey or in any area that you seek to grow in, right? So a coach is basically a neutral person who will tell you things as they are, and they will not stop at supporting you in terms of growing that area in which you would like to grow in.
For the woman to go forward, we need the emotional intelligence. We need to get sponsors. We need to get to people who can mentor us and coaches. And it was on this line that I know you have lined up something for the women. Tell us about it.
I'm quite excited because this is an area in which I have identified as an area that I wish to support women in.
Yeah.
And I will be holding monthly sessions with ladies just to have discussions in terms of how we can define, number one, what a woman leader looks like, an executive woman leader looks like, and how we can unlock that journey for every woman who feels stuck, for every woman who does not know how to navigate through the politics in a company or in an organization, to understand how to get into senior leadership positions. This is a forum that will help us get immersed in that world and just get to see how best we can support each other in terms of seeing all of us love it and sit at that level, and for the woman's voice to be heard at executive level.
Thank you, Eva, for sharing that. Her contacts are here if you would like to join her sessions. So please feel free to reach out to her. She's been an amazing person, and I'm sure she'll be excited to interact with you. Yeah, so thank you so much, guys. See you another time.
Thank you.
Bye.